Hello everybody, this is Con. I'm riding the Penang ferry with the facelifted Mazda6 2.2 diesel. This is the unit updated with GVC. Now the Mazda6 was facelifted in 2016. In 2017 Mazda added GVC technology to the car, but otherwise kept the vehicle unchanged in terms of specification. From the outside, you will not be able to tell this is a GVC equipped Mazda 6, okay, unless you pay attention to this little badge here. I've tested an earlier unit of the Mazda 6 GVC. That one did not have that GVC badge. So a quick look at the Mazda 6 cabin. This is the same cabin as seen in the 2016 facelift. The 27 GVC model adds nothing new in terms of features, but it's still the same high quality, very premium looking surroundings. So anybody who spends time in here will find this to be a very special place indeed. As you notice, the selection of very fine materials, very high class, very glossy materials that make this look properly expensive. One thing I like about this car is that the keyless entry function has walk away auto door lock. So just as long as you walk a certain distance away from the car will lock itself. So a closer look at the interior of the Mazda 6. As you can see, these are the auxiliary control switches, engine auto start stop, lane departure, electronic stability control, parking sensors. This is a little drawer. Not sure what it's used for. It's a very small slot, not big enough for even a smart tag. So I think the use of this compartment is extremely limited. Yeah. Here is the instrument cluster. Zoom out the steering mounted controls. You scroll through this multi-info display by pressing the middle section of this rocker switch. Right now the display shows the Mazda iActiv Sense lane departure system, right? So as you press and scroll, this is a compass. Here is a trip meter, service reminder, and we're back to the iActiv Sense package. So it's relatively simple in the context of today's cars, but informative enough, and the display quality is sufficiently crisp. Here is the engine start stop button. Here is the MZD Connect infotainment. So we go back to the home screen. You can cycle through the various functions using the control knob, or you can go by touch. The touch function only works when the car is stationary. So this is to avoid the driver being distracted when the vehicle is on the move. Okay, I'm going to focus on the fuel economy monitors, right? So here you go. So the next screen, you can see, yeah. So down here is the climate control. Let me just pull the gear knob. So here is a 12-volt socket from which I connected my my phone charger. I think it would have been good if Mazda had placed a USB slot here, yeah, which would make it very convenient for me if I were to plug my phone in. So here is a closer look at the rotary control for the Mazda MZD Connect infotainment. Here's the volume control, and here are the shortcut buttons. Electronic parking brake. This is a lidded cup holders, right? So it's a sliding lid. Okay, feels very high quality, and it's also very deep, so you can store plenty of various small items, not just your Starbucks cups. Here is the center console storage box, and all these pieces of plastic. As you can see here, this is an SD card slot. Here are two USB slots, and here's another 12-volt socket, right? So it's good that they have two USB slots, but once again, I do feel that it would have been good if at least one of these slots were placed further up front along the center console. So right now I'm in the front passenger seat of the Mazda 6. Okay, so now imagine a scenario. Right now I am at the highway rest stop. Okay, my car is stopped at the highway rest stop. Then my driver has gone on to the washroom. Okay, so right now let's say I want to lock the car. I do not have, as a passenger, I do not have a button anywhere to lock the car, and I can lock and unlock this. This does not activate the central locking through this button. I have no means to access the central locking, and this is a very big car, so I have to reach all the way to the driver's door to lock all doors. Okay, and now after everything's done, my driver's back, I have to stretch again to unlock the car. So this is okay in a car the size of a Mazda 2, but in a D segment flagship like the Mazda 6, I think it would have been a good idea somewhere along this area that that I have a button, a convenient button which I were to just press to lock and unlock my car. The physics behind G-vectoring control is this: when you accelerate, okay, your car's weight is being transferred to the rear. So it squats at the rear, it presses down on the rear axle, but it also lifts off the front, so it makes your front end lighter. When you decelerate, be it when you lift off your throttle or when you step on the brakes, okay, your car's weight is transferred forwards, it pitches forward, it presses down on the front axle. So Mazda's GVC system makes use of this dynamic, okay. It retards your throttle input so that it gives that extra pitch forward effect to press down harder on the front axle, and thereby give your front wheels more grip when you corner. Okay, so the net result is this. I've driven the Mazda 6 over a number of different configurations. I've found that the Mazda 6 has always been a very dynamically balanced and very agile car. But I also feel that the difference when you drive a petrol-powered Mazda 6 versus a diesel-powered Mazda 6, the diesel version has better straight-line performance. Okay, the engine is punchier, torquier, but at the same time, around corners, it is the petrol versions that feel more balanced and more agile. Okay, the front end of the petrol version somehow feels lighter and more eager to respond. The diesel version always has this nose heavy feeling that makes it slightly less hesitant to turn, but not by much. Noticeable, but not by much. When I tested a GVC equipped Mazda 6 some months back, my first impression of it was that it eliminated that feeling of nose heaviness of the diesel model. Okay, I mean, yeah, even though earlier when I said that what GVC does is that it actually induces the car to press harder at the front axle, but what it has resulted in is that because now the front end bites harder to the ground, when you turn, okay, the wheels actually grip harder on the ground. It has more mechanical grip to point the chassis where you want to go. So as a result, as a driver, you feel as if the car is lighter at the front. When I drove that GVC equipped Mazda 6, what it gave me is that it gave me that confidence to power earlier out of corners. Okay, so if you jump back into a non-GVC equipped car and around a corner you power down earlier before the car is ready, right, you may get a surprising dose of understeer that you are not accustomed to if you have spent long enough periods driving a GVC equipped Mazda car. So at the end of the day, the whole point is this: GVC, okay, the effects of Mazda's GVC system is subtle, but it's real, and in enthusiastic driving conditions, it makes a difference. It makes an actual difference. Another area in which the Mazda 6 GVC feels substantially improved over the earlier non-GVC car is sound insulation. Now, previously, the Mazda cars in general, okay, we have one of the biggest criticisms that we have reserved is that the sound insulation don't rarely feel up to scratch. The cars always, because of Mazda's priorities to chase lightweight, right? The cars always seem to feel under insulated, and this is particularly noticeable during highways where there is a lot of road noise and wind noise. And it is even more noticeable because mechanically the cars are actually very, very refined. The engine, transmission, all the cars' running gears operate with very impressive smoothness. So it amplifies in a way the other sources of noise that have not been properly cancelled out, right? The GVC equipped Mazda 6 feels just quieter on the move, okay, at all speeds. I mean, it's more noticeable at highways, yes, but at all speeds, the cars just seems to feel more hushed and with a lot less white noise on the move. So it makes for a more pleasant long distance cruise. Mazda's SkyActiv diesel engine, okay, runs on a lowered 14:1 compression ratio. So compared to most diesel engines in the market, okay, Mazda claims that by using a lower compression ratio, it is able to lower emissions whilst offering comparable levels of performance. B, because of the lowered compression ratio, the engine block is subject to less stress, and as a result, the engine block can be made lighter, the engine internals can be made lighter. Okay, this results in a lighter overall engine. It benefits the vehicle's handling because you get a less heavy nose up front. Not only that, the engine is also smoother revving because there's less inertia of all the various internal components. So when you drive this car and you accelerate, the buildup of revs, okay, it resembles that of a very torquey petrol engine. So you do not get a punch in the gut kind of feeling when you accelerate, but you know, it is very linear, it is very smooth, and it's also very easy for you to modulate the throttle. This is perhaps one of the best to drive diesel engines in the market. A BMW diesel, in comparison, feels punchier. It is also, BMW diesels also, in my experience, tend to be more economical, but it can't match the Mazda's unit for overall smoothness. Now, at its price of about 200,000 ringgit, okay, the Mazda 6 diesel competes directly against the Volkswagen Passat 2.0 TSI. You can also count the Ford Mondeo and the Peugeot 508 GT as more or less rivals, but these are a bit more left field options. But perhaps the biggest question mark that the Mazda 6 diesel faces are not any of these D segment cars, rather, but it is the entry level C class and 3 Series models. Okay, because you see, the Mercedes C180 is about 20,000 more expensive, 10% costlier than Mazda 6 diesel. The BMW 318i meets the Mazda 6 at eye level and pricing. So the question a lot of buyers face, okay, is that for 200,000 ringgit, would I buy a fully loaded Mazda 6 D segment sedan, okay, which is bigger, okay, with more equipment, or do I buy a bare bones 318i for the same money, less equipment, less engine power, but the allure of a BMW badge? This car, to drive, it is not as dynamically balanced as the 318i, but it is definitely more powerful. It gives you far better, more complete levels of equipment for the money. So in my mind, there is no doubt this car absolutely earns its asking price. Okay, whether you can bring yourself to pay the same amount of money for a Mazda as you would a BMW 3 Series, that is a judgment call for you to make. But if you were to put your money down on this car, you're definitely getting your money's worth in terms of your features as performance and driving experience. So that concludes my thoughts on the Mazda 6 GVC. Yeah, I've previously reviewed this car on carlist.my. Link to the article is included in the description section. Do check it out. Yeah. So until my next video, thanks for watching. Bye for now.